Honorable Governor for Oro.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I have two matters to debate or discuss, present during grievance debate. These two matters are in relation to seabed mining, the scourge of the Pacific, and regulating the carbon trade sector and related aspects of that sector. Acting Mr. Speaker, I wish to also ask that the relevant ministers take note. They being the Minister for Environment and Conservation, the Minister for Justice, and the Minister for Mining, and indeed all other members of the cabinet of our government. The first matter I'll talk about is the issue of seabed mining. That is awful proposal to mine the seabed, especially in the Pacific, because the Pacific is an area that is often very passive. In fact, the word Pacific means that we have been pacified, perhaps a deliberate ploy by those who came to rape and plunder the Pacific. They pacified us and made us all believe that we are going to heaven, so we can just leave everything here on earth for them to take and do as they please. Anyhow, Papua New Guinea lost $120 million in this ridiculous venture, which known scientists around the world spoke up against because there's too little known about the effects of seabed mining. Too little known about what happens when you dig the seabed and disturb the life vents that affect especially the pelagic area of the waters. This is where the most minuscule life forms activate to feed the life cycle in the oceans. Scientists around the world have warned against this, and this is the reason why developed nations are not even entertaining this idea of seabed mining. But we in the Pacific who don't have the wherewithal, the science, the knowledge, are appearing to openly embrace this very dangerous project, or this very dangerous idea, proposal, being perpetrated by extremely wealthy entities and individuals who have no care thought to the future, especially ours. Interestingly enough, had we listened to our people, in 2012, particularly on the 18th of October, when they presented a petition with more than 20,000 signatures affixed to the mining minister at that time. Had we listened to them, we could have saved this country that $120 million. They raised concern, our coastal citizens. And in fact, all of us who are leaders here who have a coastline representing our coastal people, we should take very serious note of this situation. The coastal leaders of that time, shame on them. 90% of them didn't say anything about this. But their people, the people who rely heavily on the coast, on our oceans for life, were very concerned about this activity. In fact, the very early signs were alarming and disturbing. Dead fish appearing on the coastlines, muddied and dirtied waters. Just from the initial stages carried out by that particular company, which was wound up, Nautilus. It had 60 mining licenses somehow issued, even though there are no laws governing this activity in this country. Somehow these licenses were issued under the mining department, which is controlled by cartels, by the way, for their own interest. They have us fight over crumbs and make us think that we are actually fighting over great development funds. I'm glad to say that the Marape government is now changing many of those laws so that Papua New Guineans can actually derive a true benefit from this activity. Now, those 60 mining licenses are apparently still alive. That's what a new company that is now entering into this space is saying. A company called Deep Sea Mining Finance. They are now saying that they have these licenses and they're going to be in the Pacific doing whatever they want as usual, because no one's going to stop them. And maybe we might put aside another $120 million for them to just take away. My concern is this: Minister for Mining, do take note and cancel those licenses. Cancel them. Put a moratorium on seabed mining. We don't need it. Do your research and you'll find out that the scientists of this world discourage this activity because, as they have said, the unknowns are too great. And we owe it to our people, our coastal peoples, to protect their livelihood. So Minister for Mining, I don't see him here. Hopefully he's taking note somewhere while listening. Take note, find out about this company. Cancel those licenses. I believe Prime Minister made a pledge sometime early on into his prime ministership that we would stand with Fiji on requesting that a moratorium be placed in the Pacific on seabed mining. Let's remain true to that pledge. Let's focus on agriculture and other activities that are not going to threaten our people. That's in regards to the subject of seabed mining, where we gifted $120 million to a company that took it and left and suddenly wound up, and all the individuals in that company became instant millionaires, drank champagne and laughed about a country called Papua New Guinea, which, poor and developing as it is, was willing to dish out $120 million for an activity that would have threatened its own people. Let's not repeat that same mistake. The other issue that I wish to discuss is the matter of regulating the carbon trade sector. Another interesting activity where we have a number of individuals, companies, making a beeline for Papua New Guinea, hoping to take advantage of our usual kindness and lack of alertness in these spaces, new industries, new emerging industries, with those with fancy dress and speech turn up with their briefcases and clever lawyers and accountants and economists galore to once more rape and plunder, because they know they can get away with it. There is no regulatory framework for this activity in Papua New Guinea. And as a result, our gates are wide open. All types of creatures are zooming into Papua New Guinea, slithering into Papua New Guinea, wanting to take advantage of the fact that here houses the third largest rainforest in the world, 7% of the world's biodiversity. And the people who are innocent and unfortunately gullible, our people, who depend on us. We are supposed to be the guardians of our gates. Sometimes we do our job. And in this instance, we should really make an effort to do so vigorously. And I want the Minister for Environment and Conservation to take note with the Minister for Justice, who should be leading in this space, to develop that regulatory framework. We have international organizations that are willing to do this for us for free, willing to help us to also go out and be able to capture significant monies that are available for countries such as Papua New Guinea, rainforest nations. In fact, we have missed out on $200 million for the last 10 years simply because we have not gotten ourselves organized. That money continues to be available and continues to be accessible by other countries, small nations, tiny little nations smaller than Gero, who are accessing these funds. They have only like 20 trees or something, but they're accessing these funds. Meanwhile, us, with the third largest rainforest, we cannot access these funds. Why? Can these two ministers organize themselves, get together, and organize themselves to reach out to the international organizations that are willing to help so that we can access these funds? And whilst they're doing that, work on developing that regulatory framework. Because based on the fact that we had so many carbon cowboys and similar creatures coming into this country to take advantage of our people, I had pushed and insisted for a moratorium to be put in place. And fortunately, that was done by the former Minister for Environment. Although whether that moratorium is being enforced, I do not know. We're great at passing laws and imposing moratoriums, but enforcing, that we're not so great at. Minister, can you find out if your ministry is actually enforcing this moratorium? Because I hear that there are a lot of similar entities still moving around claiming that they were given exemptions from that moratorium. How can we impose a moratorium and then give exemptions to certain creatures to do this? So let's make sure that moratorium is actually in place and being enforced, and that we develop this regulatory framework, and there are partners willing to assist us, international organizations, foreign government, development partners, etc. Let's work with them and develop this regulatory framework. And I want to also just raise some concern here about the development of the regulatory framework, because I understand, and I would like Minister for Science and Technology to take note. Minister, according to Gulf News, a media entity that operates in the virtual space, we signed an agreement with a company called Blue Carbon Limited for them to develop the regulatory framework. But this cannot be because they're a private company. They would have a conflict of interest. So I'm curious to know, why did we sign this agreement? Was the state solicitor involved? Attorney General's office? The Ministry for Environment and Conservation? Or the provinces where forests are housed? Their provincial governments? I mean, if it's a great idea, no problem. Let's work on that. But I personally think that it's a conflict of interest, so we should not waste our time with this. What we should do is the Attorney General
says that I signed an agreement. I'd like to correct that fact. Where he got information has to be corrected, and I want the governor to withdraw because I did not sign any agreement. There's a big difference. Talk facts. Thank you.
Minister for Higher Education, your point of order is in order. Governor Fowler, your grievance debate time has lapsed.
Can I at least respond to the minister before I sit down? I want to explain to him where I got this information. It's written here on Gulf News that he signed an agreement. I also sent him WhatsApp messages and put that on our caucus group, but he did not respond, so I have no choice but to put it here, because my resource owners are questioning me about this. What answers will I have for them? Some of the time, you minister trying to respond, WhatsApp message, people governor, or backbencher number, people legally line, but come down, it's like cloud nine, one him up, you plus hang up, people 2 here, please. So also na mito. No, I'm not lying, Minister. I've got the WhatsApp messages here. And this is on Gulf News, and there's a photo of you signing this agreement. So that's all we're talking about. Thank you. I'll deal with the minister and we'll talk about this.
Governor Fowler, you can...
I'm not a liar, Minister.
At a later time...
I'm not a liar. Minister, I am not a liar. Assistant Speaker, please explain to my good brother minister here. I've got the facts here, the details here. I'm not a liar.
Governor Fowler, at your own time, you can discuss with the minister.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member for one more.